All right, welcome to Tinfoil Hat, live from the Wise Wolf Gold and Silver Studios adjacent. That's right, just go to samtripoli.gold, use the promo code Tinfoil, and you too can get in on the Precious Metals game for as little as $50 a month. Just use the promo code Tinfoil, and you can get in on the game quick, easy, fun. Very excited to have our next guest on. He's been on before. We chopped it up at Bohemian Grove. And I'm very excited to have him on. He is a podcaster. His podcast is the Awakened Podcast. Please welcome Brad Lail. How are you, brother?
I'm good, brother. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Well, I love it, buddy. Always a pleasure to see you, because I saw you at obviously Bohemian Grove, but I think you came to one of my shows at Side Splitters, right? Did I see you somewhere else? I feel like I saw you somewhere else too.
Yeah, I went down to, this was when I was in Tampa, though. It was a while back. Yeah, I used to live in Tampa. I used to be stationed down in Tampa. So it might have been Side Splitters or something.
Yeah. And I felt like you weren't a part of the community, so I wanted to bring you in and introduce you to everybody, like bring everybody into the fold. So it looks like you're doing great, and I'm very excited. Brad, for those who may not be familiar with your last appearance, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where our listeners can find you?
Yeah, my name is Brad Lail. I'm the host of the Awakened Podcast, and I talk about everything from paranormal to spirituality to conspiracy. It all kind of ties in. I kind of use your quote all the time is, conspiracy leads to spirituality. You're going to find Jesus at the end of every...
at the end of it.
at the end of every single rabbit hole you go down. But I just also want to say to you, man, thank you for always pulling people up. When, you have such a big presence online that helping out smaller podcasts is a big deal. And we all talk about it. We all talk about how awesome you are. So thank you for doing that, man. I just want to say that on air while everybody's
Johnny
listening.
says I've helped more of my competition than anybody else.
Yeah.
You're like, why is anyone listening to the show? Oh yeah, they all went to the other shows.
I don't think that's true, man. People really love your show, dude.
Joke. Thank you, dude. Thank you. I appreciate the kind words. Thank you. I learned that from comedy. I came into comedy. I came into conspiracy from the comedy world. And, comedy used to be boxing. And then at some point when YouTube came, everyone started really realizing they could work together. No more fighting over one position, one thing, one job, one special. And then I came into the conspiracy world, and I just heard people say things that made me think they thought it was boxing. It was like, this is my competition. I'm like, it's not really. There's more than enough for everybody, and people listen to 90 podcasts anyway, so might as well share it. And yeah, man, I appreciate that. That's always been the goal, is that, because I had people like Doug Stanhope and Duncan Trussell and Joey Diaz and, Rogan and all these guys do my shows early, that it was I had to pay it forward. So thank you.
Yeah, man. Like I said, it helps out everybody. There's a in the podcasting world, I didn't realize how much of that there's kind of goaltending or gatekeeping. People who won't let you sit at the table. So that's kind of why I said that. Again, everybody loves you for that. And I don't think people stop listening, man. Like I said, I have friends that listen to my show that they listen to you, and then Nephilim Death Squad and me, and like they listen to them all day long.
Those guys are savages.
I know. Well, I used to do that. That's how I got into this. Actually, I would just sit there and listen to talk radio all day, and then podcast, your show, Joe Rogan's, everybody's show, and then eventually I was like, I could be a part of this. I got stuff to say too, So
that's great. I started podcasting because I wanted a radio show, and I was too crazy for radio. So I'm like, I'll just go right to the people, and God bless, and it worked out. So what do you want to get into today, Brad?
Well, I've been working on this theory that I call matter versus antimatter, and also a theory called plasma portals. And I just figured I would kind of bring that up today, talk to you a little bit about that. Yeah, it sort of explains where demons come from, where fallen angels come through portals at, and all this other stuff. And then their transition into this reality. So yeah, I'd like to get into some of that stuff today, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, let's do it. This is one of my favorite subjects. It's good to get out of geopolitical stuff and get into demons. Like let's lighten the show up a little bit, and let's get into it.
Well, I wouldn't say lighten it up, but
no, I know.
First of all, I want to preface this by saying that obviously I'm a redneck from South Carolina, so I don't know anything. I got a backwards hat on and a baseball t-shirt on right now. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. This is just from my experience and sort of what I've been reading about. Obviously, you had me on before talking about the 33rd parallel. My interest in that from I grew up in the Charleston area, which is on the 33rd parallel, and I started really, excuse me, learning about all these other different connections. And then it got me down to, you were just talking about geopolitical, it got me down to like geophysical and all this other stuff, like talking about the earth and the sun and how things line up and all this. And
Yeah, dude.
just
We
one
just
thing,
did a show on doom scrolling, and they were breaking down about all of these like major elite buildings and sites all have some weird kind of statue dedicated to some weird kind of deity. The NATO base on the mountain where the fallen angels landed, they say 200 angels landed there, fallen angels, and they have 200 seats. It's like fucking crazy, dude.
yeah. And that's Mount Herman, and that's on the
Yeah,
33rd parallel. And
yeah.
it's funny. Sorry, go ahead.
No, and how like all these major like architectural buildings and sites are like 666,000 miles away from each other. They do all the math. It's like it's really crazy.
I just did a show with JT Follows JC that's
I
coming
love him.
out. Yeah, he's the best dude. It's coming out in a couple of days. I'm gonna try to edit it maybe tomorrow and get it up tomorrow. But we were just talking about this. He went down to Sedona, Arizona, and there's a statue of Caduceus in the middle of Sedona. You know, Sedona's on the 33rd parallel as well, and it's a statue of Caduceus, which is also Hermes, the Greek god Hermes, and it's got two snakes, and it's Caduceus with the wings. It's like a fallen angel with wings, and it's got the statue is wearing a crown. And I was telling him about what I kind of know about this, and to me, those snakes represent electromagnetic energy. And again, that's what I want to kind of get into today. But
Let's do it.
yeah, so like I have this theory called matter versus antimatter, and there's a lot of really scientific stuff. Like, dude, I'm literally having to relearn what is a proton, what is a neutron, what is an electron, and all this other stuff. That's how dumb I am, right? So whenever I start learning, if I say anything that's off, that's not correct, it's just because
XG will correct you. If you want to
yeah.
know about neutrons and protons, XG will break it down for you. That's his that's his expertise.
Well, I had this at Bro Grove the night before you came. I got up on and was talking with Jonathan and Jacob from the Cult of Conspiracy, and we had this kind of a roundtable about what aliens are. And so I mentioned that we are material, we're matter, and they are antimatter. And people really seem to like they come up to me afterwards like, "Hey, this is a really good theory. Do you have any more?" And I was kind of like, well, actually, no. I mean, this is kind of it's kind of like you.
What else you got? You're like that's a lot. That's a lot.
Well, I mean, it's weird because these things come to you and you don't really know what, but you just know it. It's like yeah, it's just like you know it, man. Just like you were saying with Skankfest, how everybody was giving you your flowers and stuff like that. It's like somehow you just know these things. You can just kind of foresee things happening a couple steps ahead. And so I thought about it and I was like, I'm always saying this kind of stuff. Let me actually research this a little bit more. And I did a show with PJ Williams for Dark Ocean, and I was just totally off. I was all over the place. So I decided to clean it up. And what I discovered was that so the theory of matter versus antimatter. I'll just start with this. This is my take as a Christian man that God created the universe, and so it starts from there. Okay. And you see this in Genesis 1. God said, let there be light. He saw the light was good. And he separated the light from the darkness and called the light day and the darkness night. And then in Isaiah 45, verse 7, he says, I form the light and create the darkness. I make peace and create evil. So I want to start off by that. So God created everything. All right, just so everybody knows, I'm not like a science head or anything like that. I think the two have been separated on purpose by the Rockefellers in the early 1900s with the General Education Board and stuff like that. They took the talk of ether and all this stuff out of textbooks, and they changed the name to plasma and all this other stuff. So whenever I talk about science, it's kind of with a grain of salt because I think that they purposely take things out to have us chasing our tails. They'll always pull one piece of the puzzle out, so we'll never figure it out, you know? And part of that discussion of the Big Bang theory that they talk about is again matter versus antimatter. What happened when the Big Bang theory happened was that matter and antimatter were, let's say, a billion particles each. Well, they kept annihilating each other. And then somehow matter gained one more particle than antimatter. And the when the matter and the antimatter annihilate each other, they become a photon of light. Well, the photons are pure electromagnetic energy, and they hold the matter together. So somehow matter continued on while antimatter disappeared. Science don't really know where what happened to matter, or at least they say that. My theory on it is that the residue from antimatter, when it got annihilated by the matter, is that there's a residue. And what happened after that annihilation, there's also this energy that happens, this repulsion, almost like a firecracker. You know, you shoot up a bottle rocket, you light it, and it goes boom. Well, it has that little smoke trail behind the fuse whenever you light it, right? So that fuse would be the what science is now calling dark matter. So the energy, the dispersed residue of the annihilation of antimatter and matter created light, and it also created dark matter. Okay. So the dark matter exists in about 27% of the universe, and the matter makes up about 5%. So there's more dark matter than there is matter. So, and what I failed to say just now was that antimatter is matter's twin. It's like the bizarro world, you know, the bizarro Jerry from Seinfeld, right? It's like anti-neutrons, anti-protons, and then protrons and all this other stuff. So it didn't disappear. That's what science is telling us. CERN is telling us that antimatter, it pretty much vanished. There's untraceable amounts of it. You can't really say. The only way they can tell that it exists still is whenever photons of light are created. And I think that I'm not losing anybody because I know
No,
this is
no,
a lot
no.
of
I do
scientific
have a
stuff.
question for you. So, as a Christian, where does the Big Bang Theory fit into how you see God's creation of the world?
Well, God created light and dark. He created the antimatter and the matter, and that's what I was saying a while ago. That um, he saw that the light was good, so it kind of rules over the darkness, right? The lesser
Okay.
light was created, or the darkness was created to rule. The lesser light was created to rule the night. And so, yeah. So once it annihilates, it becomes the dark matter. Well, then the repulsion from that explosion, in my opinion, creates what's called dark energy. So energy would be anti-photons, and light would be photons. So you got anti-photons that animate the dark matter, and then you have photons that animate the material that we live in. So
Okay.
you can see how this would be like
Right.
a duality almost, but it's not duality in the sense
It's
that,
a mirror of each other, like a
yeah.
dark mirror of each other.
Yeah, well, I mean, science will tell you that, you know, the Big Bang started, but they won't tell you where matter came from and where antimatter started at. It's like they can't, they go up to the line of, you know, metaphysical, going beyond the scientific and looking into the metaphysical, which they used to do for thousands of years until the General Education Board took over. Because remember, they didn't want people learning about philosophy and religion and all this stuff. And by the way, I'm a Christian, I'm a Baptist, I'm a Southern Baptist. By the way, all the people on this board were Baptists. So they were basically trying to create docile factory workers. And so they took all the talk of metaphysics, any kind of metaphysical thing out of the education, and you can see the result of that. That lasted until the 70s, the General Education Board, or the mid 60s.
Why
But
do you
it's
think
still,
they did that?
well, like I said, to separate us from God, to get us off our path.
It's
from
so
God.
interesting that
Yeah.
religious people will somewhat make decisions that are against their religion.
Well,
You know?
there's a class in the South, and this I don't think it's just in the South, but it's especially in the South where church is is just as much about politics and power as it's a meeting place for elites and communities, and and in that way, I think I could totally see it, because the you it's really today it's hard to comprehend how intertwined church and government were in like the 1800s and like the military. But it was, I mean, that was as close as, we say we have separation of powers, but it was not. I mean, it was at the center of society. It was at the seat of society. You read all, these generals from the Civil War and everything is coming back to God, and, everything's justified in that way. So I could totally, I mean, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know other than that, other than the, I mean, some people think we're in a little season of Satan right now where, they're tearing down buildings and that were Christian inspired architecture and things like that to, it's uninspiring, ugly square buildings that they have in all these, city squares and all this stuff these days. Even, I mean, they just built one in my town here and it's big and gray and square, just like they all are. And that's what they look like in DC now. So they're not building this beautiful, Greco-Roman style architecture that they did in DC, which I
Can
don't
they?
think that.
But can they?
No, I don't think they can. I think we probably inherited this country from a former civilization a long time ago. That they're
That's
just
my opinion,
yeah.
dude. That's my opinion. Again, I was I was on a Ryan Long show in Skankfest, and I told him about how Jerry Seinfeld openly talks about how his parents were Cabbage Patch dolls
Really.
from the World Fairs, and everyone go, "Oh, test tube babies." I go, or orphan trains, or orphan trains. I mean, when I was growing up, you would watch cartoons and they would talk about orphan trains all the fucking time. All the time. And I always was like, why is there a train full of orphans? I always thought about that.
I
You
mean, I
know?
was watching some history. I mean, how many Russian men died? That means just kids. How many German men died? That just means kids. Where do you send them? And that's where the orphan train actually makes sense, where you just send them in.
Yeah. But I think it's different than that. I think that's from war. I'm thinking this is before all the world wars. That there was something
What
here.
are you talking about?
It's like
Before
when
that.
I argue with people that I think the slaves were from America and not Africa. I'm sure we got some from Africa, but I think they were all Moors, my people, right? And that we basically they were Moors. They settled in Florida and they were conquered. And people can't even they can't even understand that. They think it's so crazy. But going back to what Brad just said, I think that stuff was already here. I mean, so much of it, whether it's Tartaria is a psyop, or the new one is Caucasia. Have you heard of Caucasia?
No.
Sounds like great neighborhoods, good schools, low crime rate. Yeah, that place. Uh, family housing. Something was here before that. And we just get sold on this whole story, which is just weird to me. We just get sold on a story that this place was empty and then we came and built everything. And then there's just giant buildings that have been here forever. And we're just like, and then we forgot how to build buildings like that unless we really want to, like that Hindu temple in New Jersey that looks absolutely amazing. It's very weird to me. Guys, listen to me. The crypto market is a great place to make some money, get in, get out. All right. I keep telling you about my friends that retire. Love that coin. All right. If you want to find out about more coins, you can get in low and sell high. There's one place you got to go, and that is Copy My Crypto. Let me tell you about James McMahon and Copy My Crypto. Has it pissed you off to watch crypto fly up in price for over a decade and you still done nothing about it? Yeah, it makes sense. Crypto is complicated and real boring. Well, here's the good news. You don't need to know a thing about crypto to make money like so many have. The CopyMyCrypto.com membership site shows you the exact cryptos that YouTuber James McMahon personally owns, which means you just copy him, okay? It's like having a big brother who knows what he's doing. You don't need to know a thing about crypto or how to invest, as you just simply copy along. So let me tell you about James. James runs the Crypto with James YouTube channel, which has over 93,000 subscribers right now. In the summer of 2020, he told his viewers to buy 26 cryptos. Had you put $100 in each one, it went on to be worth over $123,000. That's a lot of money. Of the 26 cryptos, his top pick of the year, the one he singled out, called Phantom, went up 692 times. That one call alone retired a number of people, including guys and gals in their 20s and 30s. Remember, this is public knowledge. You can go to YouTube and verify for yourself. If you'd like to join the 2,800 members who copy James, then pause what you're doing right now and head over to copymycrypto.com/TFH. That's copymycrypto.com/TFH. Okay. You'll not only find proof of everything that I've said, but our viewers get full access for just $1. Okay. Yes. You missed out on Bitcoin. Maybe a little bit by chunks, but you know, there's over 2 million other cryptos. Do you really think you miss out on all of them? Guys, don't waste any more time. Go to the site and read it. Okay. Once again, that's copymycrypto.com/TFH. It's ended money worries for so many. It just may do the same for you. And we thank James for sponsoring the show. Hey guys, real quick, I want to tell you about our good friends at Hims. Listen, hair loss is a big deal. It affects men. Men don't like it. We're fighting for our lives out there. I know I am. I know a couple guys on the show are. Okay, we're fighting for our lives. And if you want the right weapon to go to battle in, well, I got to tell you about our good friends at Hims, okay? Hair loss isn't just about hair. It's about how you feel when you look in the mirror. Hims helps you take back that confidence with access to simple, personalized care that fits your life.
Hims offers convenient access to a range of prescription hair loss treatments with ingredients that work. We're talking chews, oral medication, serums, and even sprays. Doctor-trusted ingredients like finasteride and minoxidil can stop further hair loss and regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. Hims brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatment plans that put your goals first. No hidden fees, no surprise costs, just real personalized care on your schedule. Hims will get you back to your old self again with simple 100% online access to trusted treatments for real health concerns all in one place.
So it's real simple, okay? Hims is online access to personalized and affordable care for hair loss, ED, weight loss, and more. Visit hims.com/tinfoil hat. That's hims.com/tinfoil hat for your free online visit. hims.com/tinfoil hat.
Individual results may vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride. Featured products include compounded drug products, which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information.
And we thank them for sponsoring this show.
Is you see a lot in houses now because it's just cheap. If you go into those slab style houses, it's all just cheap shit, and that's part of the reason. In LA, have you noticed, Sam? Everywhere, it's that slab style. You know, it looks like a square carved out. And if you like clean design language, modern design language, yeah, it appeals to you. But it's also just cheap shit. You can ask any contractor. It's way.
I don't want a new house.
Like
when I buy a house in Texas, if I go there, it will be an old house.
Well, it's just like furniture. It's IKEA or nothing now. Like you really go out of your way to find some good, decent shit. And if it is, it's super pricey. But that's why you end up with IKEA, and then you can't. If you move, you don't take IKEA with you. You just leave it or take the trash.
Throw it out.
It
you have to put it
disintegrates.
together. It's probably not worth your.
Yeah, if you have to put it together, it's not worth it. Okay, back to this. So go on. Where were we before?
No, I will say this though, man. Me and our two brothers, when my grandma died, we for whatever reason, we just decided we'll put the tombstone on ourselves. and it was like 600 pounds just to put the headstone on the grave. And just us three, which are, pretty decent, in decent shape men, we struggled lifting that heavy stone and putting it in place on that thing, with my mom even there helping us out, kind of guiding us along the way. And so I will say that when you're talking about moving stones that are 80 tons, which is 176,000 pounds across Egypt, they're 500 miles or up rivers or whatever. That's insane to even suggest. So, because 1,000 pounds would take a whole lot of force, a whole lot of people to move that stuff. And I'll leave it at that. I didn't want to get into the Tartaria stuff today, but that is super interesting.
Where were you before XG just completely derailed us? With this?
No, he didn't.
I'm microdosing questions.
No, I was talking about how matter, annihilates, or antimatter annihilates, and then it goes away. Well, that's what the science is telling us, that it goes away. But I don't actually think it goes away. I think it becomes that residue, and I think the repulsion becomes that dark energy, that it's sort of like an even split, right? Because you have the photon that animates the matter, and then you have the anti-photon, which is dark energy, that animates the matter. Now, I know there are people who are scientifically going to be like, you're so wrong. But science will tell you that they don't have an answer for what happened to antimatter, and they can't tell you what dark matter is exactly, and all this other stuff. So I'm not far off with my theory here. I don't think I'm just adding to what I think everybody else is kind of purposely not saying or missing out on. In fact, they are kind of openly talking about it. CERN calls dark matter, well, they don't really call dark matter. They say that mass is the Higgs boson, or the God particle. They call it the God particle, right? But to me, that is dark matter. They're calling the God particle dark matter. They're calling it mass. And that's actually what I think matter is. I think that we are made up. Like, if you look at a trampoline from the surface level and somebody goes underneath it and sticks their fist up to it, it creates what looks like a hill or a mountain, right? Well, that's from the surface level, but underneath the surface, there's something that's pushing that up and that's causing it to look like a hill. And I actually think that that's dark matter, or also known as mass, that makes up the matter. So these, in my opinion, these demons exist to make us up, essentially. They're like the leftover stuff that we're filled with in a way.
Explain this to me. So we're matter, right?
Yeah.
Where is the dark matter?
It would be like, the best way I could describe it is if you take a plasma ball from Spencer's, which is created by the Smithsonian. Now they basically manufacture all these plasma balls. So that should tell you something. If you take a plasma ball from Spencer's or Target or wherever, cut it on, and you see all those little purple tendrils, you stick your finger to it and it, puts the purple line. So we would be the purple line. We would be the light. And then that empty space inside of that plasma ball would be this antimatter. And I'll get there, because I'll get there with my theory, because antimatter, essentially these things, the antimatter exists as pure intelligence. It's a pure intelligence. It doesn't have a body. It doesn't have a shape or anything. It's pure darkness and void. And this is actually what's called supercomputers. This is what complex plasmas are and all this other stuff. So in short, I think, I'll try to sum it up for you real quick, but I think that antimatter comes through into our reality in the form of noble gases. And noble gases, then they come up from noble gases through what I call plasma portals, which they come into this reality that we live in. I think that we're kind of swimming in this plasma. This plasma sort of, animates us. There's this complex plasma that's around us during the day all the time. At night all the time. And then when the sun comes out, it disperses that back into a soup of ions. So there's moments in the day when the sun's going up and the sun's coming down, that this antimatter seeps through in the form of noble gases, and then they come up through the plasma, and then they come into our reality. And this is what you were seeing back in December of last year, you were seeing a lot of plasmoids, which is called plasma toroids. And so these are basically electromagnetic balls of energy. These are basically plasma balls that are just coming up out of nowhere. And then
Are
when
you
they come
talking
into
about
our,
those lights that just kind of,
yeah.
that's noble gas in your opinion?
Yeah, it's kind of a long story, and again, I won't bore you guys with all the ins and outs of the science stuff. I was just kind of trying to lay the groundwork with the antimatter versus matter stuff. But essentially, every day, when the sun goes, up, down, around, wherever it goes, I don't even know what you would call it, but whenever it hits a region of Earth, what's happening is the sun's a magnet, and the Earth is a magnet. And when you have two moving magnets, you're creating induction, which is creating an electrical current. And that electrical current unlocks iron that encases magnetite. Magnetite has all noble gases in it. These noble gases get released. They come up through volcanoes, faults, fissures, all this. This is why every paranormal story you'll ever hear is close to fault lines, volcanoes, all this stuff. Running water, you always see running water because these are cracks in the earth where this stuff can seep through. So the magnetite is found mostly in the Earth's crust, but it's pretty heavy in volcanoes and fault lines and stuff like that. So every day when the sun comes across the Earth, it unlocks it, if you will. It unlocks the iron because iron, it grounds ethereal energy. This is why we have iron gates around cemeteries, right? Because the idea was that the iron would entrap those spirits and those spirits couldn't get out. Yeah. So
Really?
yeah, for sure. So
Now are spirits antimatter?
well, I don't know. When we die, we kind of go back when our body
Join the ether?
yeah, we join this plasma existence, right? And so I don't know if our bodies become gas. I haven't thought much into that, but the spirits, the energy is sort of grounded by this iron. This is why all throughout the Bible you'll see references to iron, and this is why you see a lot of vampire type movies with iron crosses and all this other stuff. And silver helps disperse the negative energies that are in things. This is why silver bullets and all this stuff, it's connected to the moon. So there's a whole lot there, man. But I think that, again, these two permanent magnets creates induction, this is Faraday's law of induction. It creates an electrical current. That electrical current unlocks this magnetite that releases these noble gases. By the way, noble gases are in the sea. They're in the atmosphere. And so this is where all these things are, by the way. They have underwater submersible objects, right? They have, stuff coming out of, like I said, volcanoes. They have stuff underground, which I'll get into in a little bit. But essentially, this noble gas sort of rides these electrical currents out from the volcanoes. They ride the electrical currents out from the fault lines and all this other stuff. And then they travel along the earth through currents, through these electrical currents. These electrical currents are what's known as ley lines. These electrical currents are ley lines, and they're also scientifically they're called Peterson currents. And so this ties back into the 33rd parallel and all this other stuff. This is why I kind of went down that rabbit hole with it. They ride that to a portal location. Now, these portal locations are places like Stonehenge and Standing Stones and Menhirs. I don't know how you say that, but dolmens and pyramids and all this. Those places, those stone structures were built on intersections of electrical currents, essentially.
Yes.
And so this noble gas rides these currents to these locations, and these locations acts as if they're antennas or they're capacitors. So they kind of store energy in the stones through limestone and stuff like that, through bluestone, which is what the Stonehenge is made of, and which is also what I believe the Washington Monument's made of as well. So, and I believe the Washington Monument is like 666 tall or 555 tall.
Of course.
Yeah, something like that.
Of course.
And then the capstone is aluminum, so it helps bring electricity to it and then coils up around the bluestone, and I think kind of amplifies the area. So whenever they're writing legislation, they do it at crazy times at night when they're passing laws and writing legislation and stuff like that. And I think they're doing it because there's certain, like they'll do it during storms. They'll do it when it's raining. They'll do it certain times of night and stuff like that, because I think they're trying to amplify, if you will, that spell that they're trying to cast. So
I think there's something to that. I've always said there's something with our media that is positioned in a way that they use ley lines to amplify their message, because nobody's watching the news, but their message is everywhere.
exactly.
It's
That's exactly it.
everywhere. And it's just like, how is nobody, they're like, yeah, 100,000 people watch here and 100,000 people watch there and 200,000 people watch there. Like, those are tinfoil hat numbers. But the message is everywhere. It's like everywhere. I don't know how it's possible unless it's being amplified in some supernatural way to infect people's brains.
No, I 100% agree, man. That's what they're, it's like when you see the movie Batman, the one with Jim Carrey, where he's like puts that thing on his head and it just is shooting that green stuff into his brain. That's what they're doing. I think they were showing us what they actually are up to. But
This noble gas gets released um when everything is lined up, when the circumstances are perfect. A noble gas is released, a volcano, whatever. This noble gas uh gets released, and then it instantly finds this ley lines, and then it follows this ley lines to these portals.
yes.
And when it gets to the portal, what happens?
So there's what happens is there's a couple different energies coming through. There's male and female energies, and I brought this book up because there's a great book called Ley Lines of the UK and USA by David Cowan and Ann Silk that talks a lot about this kind of stuff. So I borrowed some ideas from them. But the plasma portal stuff, that's kind of a unique theory to me, and so is the antimatter stuff. But they kind of put the pieces together on the lake. They actually have walked these lines all throughout the UK, all throughout the British Isles and stuff, and they've walked with the, what do you call it, those little divining rods and stuff.
Divine rods, yeah.
Yeah. And not only them, but there's a lot of people who have been doing that kind of stuff. And I talked to a guy named Freddie Silva, who wrote a book called Portals. He's been on like all these History Channel, all these other places, Gaia TV and all this stuff. And he talks about these energies at these portals as well, and how you can actually get downloads of information at these places. This is where I actually think fallen angels were coming to give the information to humans. This is where they were coming in through also to come shed their Okatarian and mate with humans, mate with human women. And how it kind of starts off, man, like I said, was, well, let me just say this about the portal location. So like places like Stonehenge and Avebury and all these other places, again, by the way, in the United States, we have portals everywhere in the United States. I took a trip across the United States to Wyoming, and me and my family went to Devil's Tower and all that. And dude, out in Wyoming, I swear, I took a picture of it and posted on Instagram, but it's probably buried now because it's been so long. But there are basically pyramids everywhere in Buffalo, Wyoming. There's no doubt about it that those are actually pyramids, but they kind of are overgrown a little bit, but they're like pointy. They have pointy tops and stuff. And I actually think that the national forest in the United States and these national parks and all this other stuff, I think that they were roped off because a lot of these places have portals, and this is why you can't do LiDAR and drones and all this other stuff.
Yeah, just like the Grand Canyon, hiding hidden history.
Yes, exactly.
You were talking about getting downloads at those portals. It's
Yes.
good stuff, bad stuff, just random port downloads. You don't know depending on what type of for.
I hope I'm not. Freddie's a really smart guy. I encourage you guys to go watch. He has a great movie called Megalith that's on Vimeo that you guys can watch that will probably explain some of this stuff as well. But he doesn't take it to the Christian perspective that I do, because I think that these things that are coming through are not good. They're not they're evil spirits, they're demons that are coming through. But there's a lot of people to each their own. You know, there's a lot of people who have different theories. Sometimes, and I had another woman on my show from an organization called Temporary Temples out of the United Kingdom, where she talks about crop circles. Crop circles are temporary temples because they are temporarily exactly like the Stonehenges and all this other stuff. So when these things come up, they have these magnetic fields in them that people can go and meditate in and stuff, and they get downloads of information and all this other
What?
stuff. Yeah, that's what crop circles do. And a lot of
So,
people,
so do you think that these portals are entrances into this realm and
yes,
reality from
yes,
another realm and reality? A lot of
yes.
people think that's what the moon is, that the moon is a portal in and out of here. And particularly when you pass, like it's maybe where you go back up or not, depending on what you believe in. Some people believe you sleep until God calls you. I'm not I'm not stating what I think is or isn't, but these are beliefs out here. You know, you go into the light, a lot of people think the light is the moon, and then it's like going back to what I said, Pac-Man. Pac-Man is about the moon, and he eats those ghosts, and what do? They get reborn and they come back as spirits again, which sounds like the thought of life and Gnostics think of um the being reborn cycle. So I think that's interesting. I'm still trying to figure out, is antimatter, and I hate to go back to something we moved on from, but is like, are the demons antimatter?
Yes, that's what I would. Let's just say that they are antimatter. Let's just say that because that's the darkness. That is the.
Okay.
So what dark matter does is it creates this gravity that pulls everything together. It pulls the matter together. So in a way, it's mass and gravity. It kind of pulls everything in, and it acts like it's like an inverse. It's like the upside down. It's like an inverse of what we are. It's pulling everything together. The
Stranger
photon,
Things. Stranger
yeah,
Things.
yeah.
So
Which
where they go is to the antimatter world.
I think so. Which is also known as the abyss. And I got some Bible verses I'll share with you in a minute to kind of talk about that. There's a lot of evidence in the Bible that talks about all these things. You know, Satan fell like heaven or like lightning from heaven and all this other stuff. Satan is locked away in the abyss, which is at Mount Hermon, and Jesus said he built his church on top of Mount Hermon to lock, the gates of, basically to close the gates of hell at Mount Hermon. So Mount Hermon is where the fallen angels reside. They are locked there in the abyss. And this abyss, by the way, what did I tell you? Volcanoes always are nearby, paranormal things. Well, there's volcanic activity around the Golan Heights in Israel. So this is where you get, and that's the mountain range area that Mount Hermon is at. They're always
Hold on.
nearby.
So you're saying that there is a chance that volcanoes release antimatter, which could be demonic energy.
Yes.
Whoa, dude, that's crazy. But I like it.
It is crazy. I get it. It's hard to kind of wrap your head around because we're not, first of all, they take everything out, and they took out plasma from the four states of matter. They only taught me about in my school, at least growing up here in South Carolina, is they only taught us about solid, liquid, and gas. I didn't even know what plasma was until just a couple of years ago. So they always pull out one important piece of it. And again, plasma is actually ether, in my opinion. And the ether is kind of all around us.
Yes, I agree with that. I agree
Yeah.
with that. They took it out, like, what are they called? Fire, water.
Yeah, that it's the fifth element. Yeah.
They took it out of the elements too.
Yes. Yeah. And those line up with platonic solids. The elements line up with platonic solids.
Bro, this is deep, man.
And so Earth, the platonic solid of Earth is a cube. And Topher Gardner was on my show, and he actually mentioned how the cube is 666, which is 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. So 666, and it's a cube. And the cross, when you unfold it, or when you unfold a box, a cube, it is in the shape of a cross. So it was almost like Jesus was telling us on the cross to unfold the box and, go beyond the physical, go beyond he was telling us that. He literally said that in the Bible. To go beyond the physical, go beyond the material, because you are spiritual. And so the cube is like the unlocking. The cube is the representation of materialism here in this matter. In this material.
Interesting. And it
Yeah.
has dark. The material to me is the low vibrational, which is the darker energy to me. Like the more lower vibrational, the darker the energy, in my humble opinion. I could be wrong. But that's interesting. The unlocking or opening the box to get out of the material into the spiritual is a very interesting way of looking at it. That's very interesting. Hey guys, listen to me. I want to tell you something. Like health insurance is nuts, and it's very complicated, and it could seem like reading Chinese at that point. It's so complex and dense. Okay, and let's face it, and you want to pick the right one. You don't know who to trust. Well, just don't take anyone else's word. Trust yourself and take control of your future with Crowd Health, the healthcare alternative for people who make their own decisions. All right. I'm telling you, man, having insurance isn't easy. You got to go through it. You're reading. What does this mean? What does that mean? Dude, no one's sitting there trying to help you. Guess who wants to help you? Crowd Health. That's who wants to help you.
Yeah, and with Crowd Health, if you're dealing with something minor, like under $100, you get access to a team of health bill negotiators, low-cost prescriptions, and lab testing tools, as well as a database of low-cost, high-quality doctors vetted by Crowd Health. And if something major happens, you pay the first $500, then Crowd steps in to help fund the rest. Crowd Health feels a lot like the options we used to have before Obamacare came in and messed everything up.
Ain't that the truth?
And of course, you'll join the crowd. That's capital C crowd, a group of members just like you who want to help pay for each other's unexpected medical events. The system we're in is betting you're going to stay stuck in the same overpriced, overcomplicated mess. And this year, it's even more complicated because of the ACA subsidies expiring, which means your price is going to go sky high. So far, Crowd Health members have saved over $40 million in healthcare expenses because they refuse to overpay for healthcare.
Well, listen, I've been hearing people talk about this, and I think this is an incredibly great idea. We all work together to help each other cover our costs, and I think that's freaking amazing. And I love that Crowd Health is doing this, okay? It works, and you should check it out. So this open enrollment, take your power back. Join Crowd Health to get started today for $99 for your first 3 months using code TINFOIL at joincrowdhealth.com. That's joincrowdhealth.com, code TINFOIL. Crowd Health is not insurance. Opt out. Take the power back. This is how we win. Joincrowdhealth.com. Hey guys, listen, there's a lot of bad chemicals in your food, and there's some companies out there trying to fight back. Like, did you know all chips and fries used to be cooked in tallow up to the 1990s when big corporations switched to cheap processed seed oils? Today, seed oils make up 20% of the average American daily calories, and recent studies have linked seed oils to metabolic health issues and inflammation in the body.
Masa has decided to do something about all of that. They created a tasty and delicious tortilla chip with just 3 ingredients and no seed oils. They have organic nixtamalized corn, which that sounds really complicated, but it's actually a very simple process. Sea salt and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. These chips don't only avoid all the bad stuff, they taste incredible too. Masa is crunchier, tastier, and sturdier than other chips, meaning they're not going to break off and crumble in your guacamole. Snacking on Masa chips is nothing like eating regular chips. With Masa, you feel satisfied, light, and energetic with no crash, bloat, or gross, sluggish feeling after. And as an added bonus, the beef tallow that they use to cook them makes the chips much more satiating. So you won't find yourself uncontrollably binging and still feeling hungry after. Personally, my favorite is probably the churro flavor. I know XG also loves the churro flavor. But I also love, I've got, hold on. I just pulled this out.
Whoa,
The
he
whole
ate
bag
all of it. All of it.
The white just the standard white
You
flavor.
love that
Get
white,
that.
dude.
No
You
seed oils
really
there.
do love that flavor, dude.
Delicious.
Did you do it
Delicious.
plain? No chips, no
Oh
sauce.
no, I had the salsa, baby.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, some salsa with that. No. Like they say, it doesn't break.
It doesn't break. Totally. So listen, guys, ready to give masa a try? Go to masachips.com/tinfoil and use the code tinfoil for 25% off your first order. That's incredible. That's masachips.com/tinfoil and use code tinfoil for 25% off your first order. Okay. Don't feel like ordering online? That's fine. Masa is now available worldwide at your local Sprouts supermarket. Stop by and pick up a bag before they're gone. And we thank them for sponsoring the show.
So I want to read the Bible verse that Jesus declared at Mount Hermon. He said, and this was Matthew 16:18. It says, "On this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it." And then you have other Bible verses like in Luke 10, where Jesus says, he told his disciples he saw Satan fall like heaven. Well, I'm sorry, I jacked that up. Jesus says, he says to his disciple that he saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. Lightning is plasma. And again, that's what I was trying to get at a while ago. Plasma is what every star is made out of. And it's like 99% plasma. Well, inside of that plasma is helium and hydrogen, and helium's a noble gas. So again, this is where you get the idea where it says when he opened the abyss, smoke rose from the smoke. This is Revelation 9 verses 1 through 2 and 11. And he says, when he opened the abyss, smoke rose from it like the smoke from a gigantic furnace. Again, furnace, iron. They had as king over them the angel of the abyss, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon and the Greek in Apollon. So basically, this is when in the great dragon, swept a third of the angels from heaven. The 200 angels that fell from heaven. This is the 200 craters that are on earth. So he knocked the stars out of the heaven, is what it says. And then you got Jesus saying, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. And then this is where the idea of, in my opinion, this is where X points comes into play. Now, X points are NASA's actual description of portals in the sky. These are real things called X points. And X points are
Stars are X points?
No, stars are plasma.
Okay.
But this is the moment that I think stars fell, was whenever they would come in through these X points, if you will. And then they kind of fell to the ground and it hit it like an electromagnetic pulse. And then, Jesus locked the gates there basically. And this is where the fallen angels reside, is in this abyss. They reside at Mount Hermon, locked away by the iron gates, which again, iron wraps magnetite. Magnetite kind of entraps these things. I think that every day,
So crazy, dude.
I think that every day we could be experiencing kind of a little season, because they're released every day. These demons or these fallen angels are released from the abyss every single day. But what's funny is I heard JT follows JC. He made a reel about this. He talked about dark matter being celebrated by CERN on October 31st. And October 31st starts the darkest half of the year, from October 31st to May 1st, which is known as Beltane, which is Baltane, right? This is where you get the idea of celebrating Moloch. So the dark half of the year is from October 31st every year to May 1st. And October 31st is Halloween. It's, again, CERN calls it Dark Matter Day. And
Happy Dark Matter Day. That sounds like the most politically correct term ever.
well, also the Catholic Church calls it All Souls Day. That's their All Souls Day, or All Saints Day. They changed it to, because
people were like, "What was that? Why are you calling it that?"
Yeah.
Oh no, it's All Saints Day. That's what we meant. That was a typo. Sorry, All Saints Day.
But the point is there's all these references to there's all these references to plasma and lightning and gases and the ocean and the abyss. And every one of these, like the geological vents that are on the ocean floor, releases these noble gases into the ocean water. They release them into the seawater. So essentially, they are forming in the ocean as well. They're not just forming out of streams and faults and fissures and all this other stuff. They are forming, they're coming into our reality, and they're trying everything they can to stay in this reality. So they have these underwater bases, they have these underground bases and all this other stuff because they can't come to the surface because it's God's light. God's light will annihilate it. That's what I was just talking about, what antimatter and matter is, right? God's light, matter, annihilates the antimatter. And so they're trying to find ways, they're creating hybrids, they're encasing their plasma body in a metallic shape so they can be free to go about during the day. This is why you see stuff like the boogosphere and all this other stuff. So they're trying everything they can to stay in God's light, but they just don't belong here. They can try all they want, so they're not going to be
because they're antimatter.
Right, because the reason I say noble gases is because noble gases are inert. They're chemically non-reactive to everything, essentially. And so this antimatter can creep up into the noble gas and then ride that. So that's why they're non-reactive to light and things like that. The light doesn't disperse them. It actually encases them, if you will. Does anything I'm saying make sense?
It does make sense. So how, let's say the elites have their way, that Satan returns, Lucifer returns. How will they survive in this realm if they're antimatter?
I don't think they can. I think they operate from this other world. It's funny because a lot of people use that word other world, but they operate from this otherworldly place. And this is why they have minions on earth that run the show for them pretty much. And they're making these sacrifices to them, like in Acts 7:43, where they talk about sacrificing to Remphan and Moloch and all these fallen angels is what they are. They're fallen angels. Well, Remphan might be Satan. I'm not really fully sure about that, but they're still fallen angels. He just is the lieutenant in charge of those fallen angels. So he kind of operates, he's the leader of that darkness, right? He's the leader of that pure darkness is all it is. It's void. It's cold. I mean, I had Ed Mabry on my show dropping a lot of names today. I had Ed Mabry on my show.
Oh, good. We love Ed Mabry.
And we were talking about that. We were talking about how hell might actually be very cold because it's without light. So it's very cold. And then, so you get slow vibrations when you think about what's cold. That means it's very slow vibrational. And it's funny because I mentioned I know kind of jumping around here a little bit, but I mentioned the Catholic Church, and they had the Lucifer telescope out in Mount Graham, Arizona, which is also in the 33rd parallel or close to the 33rd parallel. Arizona's full of craziness, but and that's because there's a lot of magnetic there's magnetic hotspots in out there, and so that's why there's a lot of fault lines and stuff like that out there as well. But what was I saying? Oh, Mount Graham with the Lucifer telescope. So the Lucifer telescope is a you have to cryogenically cool it down to see into space. And so I think that when they're looking into space, they're not looking out into space. They're looking into the space around us that we can't see, because they have to cryogenically freeze it down to make it see into because we exist in this.
That is amazing. That's so interesting.
Dude, we live in this 0.0035% of visible light. That means that everything else around us is 99.965% is spiritual, or the void, or whatever we can't see.
So interesting.
Yeah,
that isn't it, dude? It's so interesting.
I mean, we talked about in Broken Sim, there's that, I'm sure you heard about that. There's a color that has been unseen by humans that they can, if they shine a certain laser into your eye on the rods and cones in your eye, that you can see, while you're under the influence of that machine. And people who have seen it have been like, unlike anything I could imagine. And the interesting thing is, you hear this from people who have near-death experiences, They
The
also
color spectrum.
describe,
Yeah.
an expanded color spectrum beyond what
Mhm.
we can see, you know? So imagine having never seen anything that was blue before, right? And then one day you walk into a room and there's some blue shit in there. It's gonna blow your mind. You're gonna be like,
No, okay,
what is this?
well, wait up. I was about to ask you, what do they explain? Because that's not really mind blowing. If I see like a
It's
blue,
not.
if I see it's just, I would just say it's a different shade of like, it's like a purple. Like I know it's different. I know it's not purple, but it's not really mind blowing. And I do believe you that they're seeing something different. I think it's something way completely different than another shade of a different color. If you get what I'm trying to say.
I think XG is controlled op here to just to stable our conversation.
No,
So
I'm with Johnny where they do see something, but I think it's more than just the color. Like you're like
Yeah.
it's something like I don't know, maybe some 3D shit, just something different. Where I don't think it's just like a different shade of a color. Some
Well, that's
glitter.
what people.
I don't know.
Well, people say that when they have DMT experiences as well. They see this kaleidoscope of colors and all these other things. It's very similar. It's kind of a simulated near-death experience, if you will. But this is the DMT stuff is like I know there's a lot of people. I've had some great people on my show talking about it who really believe it and all this other stuff. But I actually think that some of these things are interactions with demonic entities, if you will. So this is so when people are seeing those kind of things, those gestures. I mean, Paul Stobbs talks about this in his book, Nephilim Look Like Clowns. A lot of people are very kind of aware. I mean, at least very. I like me. I wouldn't want to do DMT because I feel like it's eating the forbidden fruit, right? It's kind of like you're taking a bite of the apple and you're accessing this forbidden knowledge that you're not supposed to access because we're humans. We're supposed to have a human experience. Like God didn't say here's all the psychedelics you want so you can go out and experience the spiritual. You're here to have a material experience, a human experience, while we're here for this short 120 years or whatever it is. So, but yeah, you're right, Johnny. That when people have these near-death experiences, they talk about colors they've never seen before and how beautiful it is and how peaceful and pure love it is and all this. And I agree. I think that they're interacting with, to me, they're interacting with a positive life, right? They're interacting with God. I don't think that they're interacting with the jesters and the phony near-death experience of the psychedelic world. So, but I will say, like, again, if we exist in this little tiny sliver of visible light, this color spectrum, the red, green, blue, all that stuff exists around us. So if they're trying to look into that world, they're going to have to cryogenically freeze that down to slow the vibration down so they can look into the slower vibrational world, because we're vibrating at a medium temperature right now, right? This is perfect temperatures. God's light's awesome. We're vibration at a perfect temperature. And now if you're freezing, and hell is that it's so cold that it's hot, right? So if you're freezing all the time and you don't have any rest, your body has no rest because you're just a spirit now, and a negative spirit that's kind of trapped in that world, then you want a vessel to inhabit. And Jesus talks about this. If you cast the demons out, you got to make sure your house is in order. Make sure you fill it with the Holy Spirit, because if you don't, 7 times more demons will come in and inhabit your vessel. And I think that, again, when we are low vibrational, when we do drugs and alcohol, fear and all this other stuff, like you said, when you said that, Sam, we're at a low vibration, and we're right up close to that line of their world, right? Because we're such a slow. I mean, you see these people on drugs in Kensington Park and all these other places. They look like they're demonically possessed. And again, if you keep us in a state of fear, anxiety, depression, drug addicted, all this other stuff, our vessels are weaker. In terms of energy, we have lesser energy. These things can attach themselves easier too. And so this is why I think they constantly pushing out messages of negativity all the time to get people in that state, that low vibrational hum. But yeah, that's a whole thing, man, is that whole Lucifer telescope looking into the space around us. I think that the space we see in the sky is just like the space we see in between our organs, in between our vessels and all this other stuff, right? In between our blood cells. So I think that there is that same empty space. And there's many universes within us as well. and it just keeps extrapolating all the way up and up and up and up and up. So, but I think that they exist just to create us, if you will. They get squeezed to create the light, if you will, and
What gets squeezed?
they're that empty space, that void, they get squeezed to create matter. Because again, they annihilate. Sorry if I'm a little bit all over the place, but
No, no, no. I'm trying to. So the antimatter creates the matter,
yes, that's what I think.
but
It
are we
helps.
God's creation?
Yes, we're still God's creation, but you know, and God talks about this. He says, I created the light, but I also created evil. I also created the dark. I can't remember the Bible verse, but yeah, he says it. It says it over and over in the Bible, and it says it over and over in the Bible. God is light. God is light. In Him is no darkness at all. Right? It's God is light over and over. So there's tons of evidence that's right there in the Bible that's been there for thousands of years to show us the way. So, but going back to the portals, if I can, man, I kind of didn't really get a chance to explain what happens with these ley lines when they intersect.
Okay, I'm in.
And when they intersect, what happens is you have you have an electrical current, right? Which is a telluric current. It's called a telluric current. This is what the ley lines are. So when you have an electrical current, it creates its own magnetic field. So when these currents are flowing and then they intersect with another electrical current that has a magnetic field, you get what's called like a separation in the space-time continuum, if you will. The electrical field and the magnetic field is doing like this all the time. They're kind of coming together, but barely touching, not really touching. There's a little tiny space in between. Well, when these two fields come together, these two electrical currents, they create like kind of a jarring, and it kind of creates a little space that these things can come in through, and then they emerge into the plasma, and then they become kind of like this complex plasma. Then they have to find another magnetic field, which would be like the portal, which would be like Stonehenge, because you have Stonehenge and all that is just kind of entrapping or encircling this electrical energy, this magnetic energy. So you become they become a complex plasma. So they go from antimatter to noble gases to complex plasmas. And then the complex plasmas hit another magnetic field. There's a guy named Winston Bostick in the 1950s did a study on this. He was shooting complex plasmas into a magnetic field for just playing around with magnetic fields. And it created a toroid. It created a halo, a golden ring. And these things were just flying all over the place. And he was like, what the heck is this? So he decided to start shooting more of them in there. And what he found out that they would start interacting. So these plasma toroids, these little golden rings, were interacting with each other. And then they would turn into these little balls. And these balls of light look like the flower of life in a lot of them. They'd spin. You saw this with the plasmoid stuff that was going on in the Jersey drones. There's tons of videos where you see it start as a little point of light, and then it kind of spins, and then it becomes an orb, and then the orb becomes like a drone. That's what people were seeing.
Dude, that is exactly what my friend Romanelli was telling me. He goes, they shapeshift.
Yes. There's a reason for that. So once they hit the complex plasma, which, by the way, complex plasma is a supercomputer. This is non-human intelligence. This is what, when you hear governments talk about aliens, this is what they're talking about when they say non-human intelligence. So when you go to search words on FOIA requests and all this stuff, don't search for alien stuff. That's just ridiculous. They're not going to search for spiritual stuff, search for non-human intelligence, search for fast walker, all these different names that they have for them. Because non-human intelligence is a complex plasma. Complex plasmas are supercomputers. And what supercomputers are means that they're non-linear, which means that, for example, a computer, you tell it to do something, it's going to go up and up and up and up and up. That's a computer code telling you if this, then that, on and on and on. A supercomputer is chaotic. It acts as if any moment can be a new thing or a different thing. So it's very highly intelligent. So these complex plasmas, and you've seen one of these before, by the way, with the Jeremy Corbell UAP video of the jellyfish flying around. That's what that is. That's a complex plasma. It hits a magnetic field, and then it electrifies and turns into a orb. Well, what is the orbs always? Orbs are orange, purple, blue, all this other stuff. Well, what are noble gases? Noble gases are orange, blue, purple, blue, all these other different colors. So what you're seeing is you're seeing it more from the noble gas to a plasmoid to, or a noble gas to a toroid to a plasmoid into a ball lightning or an orb. And then it pulls from the putrefied ions of dead animals around it. And this is where you get cryptids from. This is where you get Bigfoot and all that stuff. So what you're doing is so that let's say that these things are flying around the swamp and they're magnetic. They're highly magnetic. They're flying around the swamp. They're going to pull from stinky animals, skunks and deer and all these other dead animals. The plasma is just holding all the putrefied remains of those things. And so it quickly forms into something and materializes into like a Bigfoot or a cryptid or something like that. So,
and can it stay here, or is it antimatter and it will go away?
well, they can stay here at night because the sun's not out at night.
But
And then
during the day, it dissipates.
during the day, yes, God's light disperses the complex, because all around us is complex plasma. This is a fact. You look up in the sky, and what you're seeing at night is complex plasma. During the day, you're seeing electrified plasma, which creates blue air glow. So the the blue you're seeing in the sky is not space. The blue you're seeing in the sky is electrified plasma that's burning off free electrons and stuff, and it's creating this electrified field.
Wow.
So it disperses them during the day. It disperses this complex plasma back into the ether.
So would you say that any video of a cryptid during the day probably isn't real?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if because I think what happens is they can, if they can pull putrefied ions, I think they can probably pull metallic things as well. That in cases they're, so what you're seeing with like the boogosphere and all these other orbs, these other metallic objects that you see on Skinwalker Ranch or somewhere like that in the sky, I think that they have a metal casing that protects them from God's light. So inside that metal casing is an orb. So
that is that's probably one of the most interesting things ever said on the show. Holy shit.
I take that as a compliment.
So complex.
It's
That's
a
no,
lot,
I
man.
love it, dude. That's incredible.
So I think that they are trying to operate. They're trying to get into this reality. This is why they're exsanguinating cows and all this other stuff, mutilating cows, and getting their blood, and they're trying to reproduce to create hybrids that can inhabit this reality. But again, I mean, and maybe they're successful. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they got reptilians all over the place that are walking the earth, but I'm assuming that they are probably not as successful at it as they would, probably like to be. But this is spun. This is kind of that kind of goes into like the Greada Treaty and all that stuff with Eisenhower and the
Grada Treaty. What is that? Oh, you mean like, you guys can have we made it, Nazis showed up at the White House and they made a deal for the state, the national parks. Is that what you're talking about?
No, as far as I understand, the Greada Treaty was a treaty that was signed between ETs and the U.S. government. They can take.
That's around that is that like that's what that is. It's basically
they can abduct humans. They can abduct humans, and we'll wrap them up. We'll rope them off in the national forest, and we'll protect them, and we'll let them do their thing. And this is probably why every time there's like a Bigfoot type of an abduction, the FBI shows up, is because there's probably something going on there. I actually personally think that they might be feeding these things in some way in these national forests and stuff. That's just a wilder, theory. But
Government beating them?
Yeah, I mean they have a deal.
Yeah,
that's basically what black men in black is. They work with aliens in this high-tech area place or whatever you want to believe these things are. And that they basically have deals with them, and they can't take everybody, but they could take certain people, and you kind of study where, like, it's like in the middle of these cornfields, they're grabbing people and doing experiments and then putting them back, and makes sense. Makes sense. So you
Yeah,
think these demons are antimatter? That's what we're getting out of here.
that's what I think.
And they
Yeah.
have to figure out a way to get surrounded by metal so they can last in the sun. And if they don't, they have to go back.
Yeah, because the sun would disperse them into the back into the plasma, back into the ether. That's that they inhabit. So again, it's kind of a long way about coming in. But if they come, they ride in through the noble gas that's chemically inert that doesn't react to anything. They can come into, like, this happens, by the way, like I said, when the sun's going down and the sun's coming up. It's always at twilight. This is why you got shows like the Twilight Zone and all this. That's what twilight is. It's that period of time where these things are coming into our realities and leaving our realities. And so,
And
and
the
I think,
witching hour, they always talk about 3 a.m. as the witching
yeah,
hour, which is probably the darkest time when we are, when it's the least amount of sunlight. I would think if that's the witching hour where all the chaos happens.
I also think that you're right, but I also think that there's something about the pull of gravity on the other side of the earth at that time. Like if the sun's coming up or going down or whatever on the other side of the earth, then it causes effects, gravitational type effects on the side that's experiencing the 3 a.m. stuff, right? So that's my theory on
So
it. Dude, I know it's all out there.
no,
I'm not an
hey,
expert
you're
on
in the
any of
right
this
place
stuff.
to talk about it because it's interesting and it does line up with me. It does line up. I mean, it's super interesting. It's very dense, but I love it. I think it's interesting shit and it all lines up to me. It's like, I mean, it's just crazy stuff, dude. It's not crazy bad, but crazy interesting, you know? Like,
Well, yeah,
and
man.
and that's Dracula, right? Dracula, the sun comes out, he's fucking done. You got to rush him back to this coffin, close the door before the light hits him. It's almost like they've been telling this for us forever.
This is why when you say the name of Jesus, which is the embodiment of light, they disperse as well. Because Christ is God, is Jesus is God, God is light, Christ is light. So when you say the name of Christ, they disperse. The flashlight,
This
you can turn
stuff
a
that,
flashlight on and they disperse.
and it's very interesting because even Kurt Metzger, who I would say has problems with religion based on he was a Jehovah's Witness, and obviously it didn't, he didn't enjoy the experience, let's say. But he does talk about how based on these discussions he's had, that the only thing that works is the name of Jesus. And then there's all this discussion on what's the real name, but does it become an allegor where if you put enough energy into it, it becomes something? What are your
Yes,
thoughts on that?
I believe so. I believe egregores can take their own shape based off of enough energy from the collective consciousness or the collective people
Like
whenever they're coming.
Ghostbusters, like don't think of anything, and he's like, God, thought of the State Marshmallow Man.
Dude,
Well,
wait. So you said light can also disperse them. That adds a whole new context to kids who instinctually want the lights on at night. When they're
yes.
afraid.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fascinating. So
Bro, that is so interesting, dude.
Well, all of these, throughout history, man. I mean, if you go and look at all these locations, they always have spirals. I'm talking about like Stonehenge and all these places. There's a place called Muru in Peru, which is like the doorway that has all these spirals on it, and they're telling you, these ancient peoples are telling you this is where the energy, this is where the electromagnetic energy is coming. This is the portal location. And all of these locations have association with wings and serpents, and you'll see what's like little jagged lines. And those little jagged lines, people think it's water, but it's not. It's like an electrical current, and they're associated with fallen angels. Again, this is where I think people were going. They were tricked by these tricksters, which Hermes, by the way, is the Greek god of he's a trickster god, right? And this is the statue that they have in Sedona, Arizona. And so they were tricked by these fallen angels into creating these Stonehenges and stuff. And I actually think that the Crusades and all this stuff was to go and destroy all these places, was to cover them up, was to break them. And
I think that's most war. Most war is about getting rid of the old world.
yeah, but I think some of it, I think that there are probably two factions. I think there's probably one side of the government that probably are trying to cover this up, and destroy this stuff. And I think there's another faction that's probably working with these things in some way, getting medicine and technology and information and all this other stuff. This happened right after Roswell. I mean, right after Roswell crashed in 1947, the National Security Act was signed 3 weeks later by Truman he was the 33rd president, by the way, on the
Damn.
yeah, he signed it on the Sacred Cow, which was then the Air Force One, and this is what created all the CIA and all this other stuff. So they basically had to spread all this information out through all the different organizations. But I think that again, they have. I think that these locations are associated with fallen angels because if you look at the caduceus, the medical symbol, the caduceus, that's actually the symbol for Hermes. Or Mercury. That's the symbol for that fallen angel. Because these pantheon of gods, which they're still teaching in school, by the way, they never talk about Jesus, but they talk about this pantheon of gods of these Hermes and all these other people. That's what they're teaching at these schools. But yeah, so if you look at the caduceus, the staff with the two snakes wrapped around it, it has wings at the top. Well, those wings are the fallen angel wings. The two snakes are the serpent energies that I was just telling you snake along the earth. That's the ley line. That's the current, the telluric current, the electrical currents. They're snaking along the earth, and when they meet up at this location, they're crossing. And this is where again the idea for the caduceus comes from. The Army, U.S. Army took it over. They adopted that. Allegedly, they didn't know. Right. But they adopted that logo. And this is why the medical field uses that logo today. But the actual one is, I can't remember the name of it, but it's a single staff with a snake around it. But it's interesting because all of this imagery has snakes and serpents and all this stuff. And I think, and so does like Freddie Silver from the guy who wrote the book Portals and Megaliths and all this other stuff. He actually thinks that represents electromagnetic energy as well. And so that's kind of the prevailing thought is that it's electromagnetic energy. But again, at these locations, people get really sick. Some people get extremely sick because they're not vibrationally ready to get into that. You know, horses and animals and dogs and all that stuff, they won't go near these locations. They won't go near crop circles and all this stuff, other stuff. They freak out. But certain humans can resonate at the frequencies, and depending on the level you're at, you could die if you don't have a certain resonant frequency with one of these things, one of these locations. And this is why I think that they close them off all throughout the day. They close them off at certain times of day and night and all that stuff, so you can't go there and visit. So I think there's a whole nother thing. There's a whole world, there's a whole history going on that we don't know about, man, that is being hidden from us. Maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. I don't know. But I think that we're big boys and girls. They should be able to tell us kind of what's going on rather than have some dumb like me come on the show and talk to, hundreds of thousands of people or whatever it is. I think that they would be better off with people telling us the truth. But it seems like that there are a lot of people who are serving that dark matter. They're celebrating that dark matter. They're celebrating that dark energy. And I
think that's why they hide it from us. I've said this before. I think they use the Abrahamic religions to wear as a mask to walk amongst us. Because if we really knew what they were, I would like to think we would lose our minds, but I don't know anymore. But we would start stringing people from trees and putting them on gallows. But maybe not. Right now, we celebrate their lifestyles or how crazy people are. But this is the stuff I think is the real power religion, the Judaism, the Christianity, and I think, I got in a pre-heat discussion on the Union of the Unwanted about what's actually happening to Christians around the world. And because some people think it's a psyop. Now the Nigerian discussion is a psyop. It is, the intelligence agencies, the international bankers, international corporations trying to get Christians upset to give them the green light to go in there and steal all the natural resources of Nigeria. So in that aspect, but Christians have died, 20,000, which is a lot. Okay. But it's not to the number that they're making it seem like it's like just insanity. So, But there is a war against Jesus. I don't care what anybody says, and this is coming from a knuckle dragger. Okay, there is a war on Jesus and his beliefs, and it's real. Like, it's like they were talking about on it. They wanted how 130 Christian churches have been burnt in Canada. It's like it's really happening. Um, it's not just a psyop to get Americans mad at brown people or another part of the world, but it's actually happening. It's actually happening to Muslims as well, regardless of what you think of Islam. You know, they have radicalized Islam through the House of Saud and Wahhabism, and they have slaughtered those people at a giant rate to even make them more extreme. Because I'd be pissed too. I'd be pissed too. It's a real war, dude, and like this all fits into that. Like it just really resonates with how I see the world, man. It's so complex. It's so complex. It's a very complex discussion, but I love it, and it's just the system itself, the releasing of a noble gas, the ley lines to the portal to the coming through. It's so interesting to me. And it's like, you're fighting over Republicans and Democrats. It's just crazy to me. It's not that. It's like, sounds like it's like antimatter versus matter at this point.
Yeah, and like you said, man, I'm glad that what'd you say your friend's name was again? Kurt Metzger. I'm glad that he said that about Jesus, because Jesus is the way, man. Christ is king. And so I think the more people say that, the more they will start to understand that that's what the spiritual warfare is. It's the seed war, as Doc Brown says, as the guys from the Biblical Hitmen say. It's a seed war that we're in, and it's good versus evil. It's not Democrats versus Republicans. I used to think it was kind of like rich versus poor, but it's not really that. It's people who want power, because these fallen angels were men of renown, right? Or the Nephilim were men of renown. So the spirits that are inhabiting bodies, those are the demonic spirits of the Nephilim. Okay. So they were men of renown. They were the kings of this and the princes of that. So when they come and inhabit a body, they want to exert that power over whatever they're using. So this is when you see somebody who's talking about materialistic things all the time, they want gold and they want biggest planes and whatever, whoever's talking about that means that they're materialistic, and they're, in my opinion, they may have something that's possessing them that's maybe like a dark spirit. And I think that that's why it's important to have Christ in your heart, because like I said before, what Jesus said was that if you tell the demons to get out, you can tell them to get out right now. You're in control. You have the free will. This is what you were talking about with the vampires. You let them in. You have the authority to tell them to get the hell out. Jesus gave us that authority to cast demons out as well, not just out of people, but also out of ourselves. And so when you actually sit there and you say, "Get out of my body," if you know what that spirit is, if it's an alcohol spirit or whatever, porn addiction spirit. I'm guilty of all these things too, by the way. I'm not perfect.
Dude, I'm battling demons constantly.
Me too, dude.
I'm fighting for my life over here.
But you have to fill it with the Holy Spirit. You have to fill your vessel with the Holy Spirit. So if you let the demons in your heart, you got to tell them to get out, and then put Jesus there in its place so they can't come back in. That's part of the gates of hell kind of a thing too, that Jesus built his church on top of Mount Hermon and the gates of hell to prevent the demons from ever getting out or coming back in. So, I think that's important. That's important. It's especially important to talk about right now because obviously, man, Christianity is under attack. I don't know if people remember this, but back in 2015, they tried to take Jesus off the internet, or maybe it was 2014.
Well, that's supposedly the next move.
Yeah.
And you had this former Satanist talk about he would go to these satanic secret meetings and they would break it down slowly what they're going to do. And the next thing would be and you've seen the Zionists starting to try to do this, where just saying Christ is king is somehow demonic or anti-Jewish. And when you think you're the chosen people, and you're told someone else is king, that could piss you off. But I don't think most Jews care. Um, but
Well,
that
well,
is in play.
Jewish people aren't the only Semitic people, by the way. There's
Well, the
tons of
ones in Israel aren't even Semitic. So
right. That's what I'm saying. So yeah, but yeah, it is anti-Semitic to say Christ is king because they don't believe that Christ is king. So yeah, let them say that. I don't care. Christ is king.
I find it hilarious to me that that there are people who argue that someone is or isn't Jewish. I don't. This isn't based on the Union wanted. I know because I'm like, oh, it comes off like that, but it's not. But it's this really weird thing where there's this rule in Judaism that if to be a true Jew, your mother must be Jewish. Yet nobody in Israel is really born of a true Jewish woman. They're all like Europe. They're all European. It's like it's just weird to me how you can't even have a DNA test to find out what you are. It's like it's the mental gymnastics to get there to that moment is just beyond interesting to me.
Jesus is the one true God. That's it. That's all there is to it. And so I don't care what everybody else says around the world. I'm going to continue spreading that message, man, because I'm a Christian and that's what I believe. So if I have a platform like this to ever say that, I am going to say that. I'm going to continue saying that because it's important, man. Because
I find the people who say Jesus wasn't real the same as the atheist. And it's just like, how happy are you?
But I mean, that's even, I say this every time you say that, but that's just bad history. Like you have, what's that guy's name who's kind of made his bones? He's English and he debates theology often.
Yeah, I know. He was just on
mustache and like the
Monton. He was just on Monton. I made that young guy who's I met at he was at Skankfest.
Oh, that kind of crazy guy.
No, he's not a crazy guy. He's really smart.
I mean, he's got like a
people come on the show and he tries to press buttons.
Yeah,
Martin.
Yeah, yes,
I like him.
yes, something.
He wants to do Comedy Chaos, the next Comedy Chaos.
He's a wild dude, though.
Yeah, I mean he's really smart in how he operates. So anyway, I don't know if it's
that English crazy. Guy I'm talking. I can't remember his damn name. It's like Chapman or something like that. He's even come around on the reality of Jesus, like in his softening remark. I mean, because he started out as like a proper, what would you say, like a neo-atheist, I guess is what they would call like the the Hitchens, which I liked Christopher Hitchens, of course, but that kind of Richard Dawkins Hitchens kind of a militant atheist modern thing, and he's softened like tremendously on that, and acknowledges that there was a person called Jesus. So the people that are still on that, dude, are just they don't know what they're talking about.
But even if it's like, okay, so you're saying this idea is a psyop, like what is the purpose of that? Like and what they'll tell you is it's a long queue where it's like meant to pacify you, but I've had Jesus in my life, and I've not had Jesus in my life. And when I didn't have Jesus in my life was chaotic and low vibrational. And then when I have these things, I follow these rules, simple rules. If you don't even want to call them sins, just wait, actions that lead to high vibrations versus actions that lead to low vibrations.
Fruits of the Spirit.
Fruits of the Spirit. That's a great way to put it. The fruits of the Spirit. My life is infinitely better on this side than it was of that side. This notion that there's no rules and it's just somehow it just formed and there's just, we were just bacteria with shoes on. It just doesn't even make any sense to me. I don't know how that works. I just don't know how that works. And I do think that within any religion, you have people who kind of, in the name of religion, do certain things that don't seem very spiritual to me. You can't really control that. That is, again, when I speak in recovery meetings, there's a lot of people who have a problem with God. And I try to tell them that the problem they have with God are the actions of man and what they do. And you can say, well, it's in the name of God. Well, God gave us free will, you know, and it goes back to the outside the mind podcast. What they said was about, are you lining your free will with God's plan? And that to me is everything. And when you get off that, you feel it. It's where that's sunk in, like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? All, you know, this doesn't feel right. That's where that all comes into. It's in
Yeah. Well, you live you're letting God use your vessel for his will. It's funny, man, because he will put me in the locations that I need to be at the exact time. I just helped a lady who fell over at the trash dump the other day. She busted her head open. I just happened to be there and I had all the stuff, the first aid kit to help her out. I've been in positions where there was within 2 days, I saved two babies, believe it or not.
Whoa.
One from a car accident and one from crossing the road. She was walking out around her, about to cross a major road. And so like, I just feel like there was things that led up to that if I wasn't open to being used for God's will, that I wouldn't have been able to be in positions for that. Like, for example, whenever the second baby, for example, my daughter was like, can I get a balloon out of nowhere? And as a dad, I'm just trying to be a good dad. I'm like, all right. So we went around looking for balloons everywhere. And we stopped at this one grocery store, the IGA. Johnny knows what I'm talking about, the IGA. Stopped at the IGA and they just happened to have a balloon. Well, left there. And that's whenever I saw the baby crossing the road. It was like, I say baby, it was like a year and a half, 2 years old.
Toddler.
Yeah, it was little. Yeah. And so I freaked out. I just got out of my car, truck as quick as I could, and went and grabbed the little girl and took her back inside. But yeah, I just think that when you're open to being used for God's will, he will use you, man. And that's the crazy part. You've said it actually before. I've heard you say a joke about giving somebody money or something. You had to fix somebody's car in the desert or something like that one time. Yeah, that is exactly how I feel. It's like all of a sudden you get a calling to just stop or just do this, and you don't have no idea why. That's the Holy Spirit guiding you in that right direction and telling you need to be there without you really knowing why. You just are there and you have to do it. And then you're rewarded always afterwards. You're always rewarded for it. Like I think you said something like along the lines of you went home and there was a check or something in the mail that for like
100%. I've said it
something.
before.
Yeah.
I want to be like, I have an old example of that. I have another example of that. So there was this guy that had a daughter, who a politician, or a former politician, got LASIKs, and she got her eyes fixed, and she decided to drive the next day, which you're not supposed to do for like 3 days. And she got on the highway and she hit this family and the girl died. And because she was such a powerful politician, law enforcement and the politicians are covering it up. So this guy decided to start GoFundMe so he could go, take this person to court. And I gave them money, a couple $100, 500 exactly, but literally next day I get an email from one of our affiliates for a couple grand, like next day.
That's amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
Dude, I mean, I can't describe it. I know we're probably wrapping it up here. I'm probably getting winded here, but I was building my house and we were worried about kind of where the money was going to come from. And then I kept telling my wife, don't worry. And then we got construction loans, all this other stuff. Come time to close, they were like, hey, you got to pay one more payment. And we were literally like no money whatsoever. And I had just, for whatever reason, started buying and selling baseball cards. And I bought this Aaron Judge card just before he, hit 63 home runs or whatever it was that year. And he just took off. All of a sudden, people were wanting his cards. And I ended up selling a card for $1,600. And after eBay took their fees and everything, dude, it was the exact amount that I needed to pay that.
What was the card, dude? What was the card?
It was a rookie card. It wasn't even an autograph card, but everything at his time, yeah, it was graded as a PSA 10. Yeah,
nice.
So,
Judge,
but everything at the
whose card
time,
was it?
Judge, he said.
Aaron Judge.
Oh, Judge. Yeah. Oh, snaps. I got.
Yeah, but I bought it for like $200 and ended up selling it for $1,600. And then
did you get it graded or did you buy it graded?
I bought it graded. This was before he took off. So this was like just before.
I want a Otani card so bad, dude. And they're like, there's some super cheap ones,
Wait,
but I
wait.
want the expensive one, dude, because it's so nice.
Yeah, wait. No, he's so because of the World Series right now. Wait until like spring training, little right before spring training, like cards go in cycles.
Yeah,
So
right now, actually, in the cold months is whenever you should buy.
I would
But
wait I would wait till like January or February because
yeah,
people in LA especially are still like if you look at the market for Dodger shit, it's like right now Dodger cards are
but
next
all
month.
that whole thing is another conspiracy, by the way. Graded cards and tops
Oh
and all
yeah,
of their
PSA is
connection
a
to
scam, dude.
PSA and all of it, dude. It's so bad. It's such a big. I could do a show on that, and I might do a show on my show
That
just
would
talking
that
about
would
it.
be fascinating how
E-
PSA is a scam for it's in it.
Even that.
I wonder if how much of what you guys are talking about this manifestation stuff is it can also possibly work against you like but I don't mean like even when you're thinking you're asking for something because there's that like be careful what you wish for thing and I think there's some real truth to that but like I had one of the weirder things that ever happened to me. There was someone I hadn't talked to in probably like 10 years. And I said when I went to sleep one night, I said, if this person is supposed to be in my life, they'll call me tomorrow. I hadn't talked to this person in 10 years. And I got a phone call from that person the next day.
Oh my God,
It was
really?
crazy. It was so crazy. I mean, I was like stunned. And it was a huge mistake. But like you know what I mean? Like there's something about putting intention out there. You just got to make sure that what you're putting the intention for is something that's good for you and not
Well, is it lined up with
I'm
God's?
100
I'm sorry. Go ahead, XG.
no, you're right.
I was just gonna say I'm 100% with you that unlucky people are always unlucky. Have you ever heard people that are always say, "Oh, I'm never lucky. Oh, I never win nothing." All right,
Yeah.
keep saying that. You go
Yeah.
ahead. You're never
Well,
gonna, you're
dude,
never gonna win.
you can manipulate energy. See,
Yeah.
and let me ask you this, and we'll let you go. Is Christianity and energy manipulation exclusive? I mean, is it like two separate things, or can we find that there's a balance in that? Like when you're talking like, hey, it's going to work out, that's almost manifestation. Is Are those mutually exclusive?
Well, isn't intention when you pray, you have an intention behind it almost always. So there's something to, first of all, I think God already knows what we want. It's just it does it line up with His will, and I think if you ask for anything outside of His will, then I think that there's a price to pay. To be honest with you, I think that if you, for example, if you use the divining rods to go find a buried treasure, and you become rich, well, I think that there's too much unbalance in one direction, and now you've kind of shaken things, and something bad is going to happen. A negative thing is going to happen. And I think that's why it's important to not have store up your treasures on earth. It's important to not. I've given away cards of very expensive baseball cards and stuff, and to kids and all this other stuff because I feel like if you have whatever you have too much of, you have to shed it off. You have to get rid of it because it's
I
an
agree.
excess. And because there's a karmic balance, almost I don't know if karmic is the right word, but there's a balance to this world that if you have more than what you deserve or need or anything like that, then bad things might happen to you. That's honestly how I don't want success. I tell people that all the time, just because of that reason. I'm afraid of it, dude. I don't want it just because of that. Which is, and I asked God, like I prayed before I came on today. It's like I asked God specifically to use me for His will today. It's not for me. It's not for my gain. I don't care if I gain followers from this or likes or comments or anything like that. I mean, let's be honest, I do a little bit, but it's not like,
Yeah, I get
it's not
it,
really
dude.
for me, more or less. I don't even know why the hell I'm doing this. I'm not really making a lot of money from this. I'm probably putting my family in danger by talking about some of this stuff.
No, I
But,
find it interesting, dude.
yeah.
I find it really interesting. Well, Brad, this was an excellent episode, super deep. There was some dense stuff, but I think it's absolutely amazing. And it makes sense to me, dude. Like, how do you get into this realm from the cold? And you see the elites telling us stuff that lines up with what you're saying, right? The
Yeah.
the negative world or the whatever they call the negative what do they call it in
Upside down.
The upside down. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. One more time, Brad, tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, thanks again, Sam and Johnny and XG for having me on. I really appreciate you guys as always. Y'all are always supportive. Y'all always respond to messages and all this other stuff. Thank you to Mark for always keeping in contact with me and trying to get me on the show and things like that. Yeah, you guys can find me at The Awaken Podcast. TheAwakenPodcast.com is where you can find all the links to the show and all that stuff. I will ask that if you do like what you hear here, just go hit the follow button on Spotify and Apple and give the show a 5-star review. Those reviews help us podcasters, that is, get around the algorithms. And there's a lot of, I do search engine optimization for a living. So those are little tricks that can help. You're telling the algorithm that you want more of this content. So I think that's very important. And do you mind if I plug a couple other guys' shows real quick? That
You do whatever you want, buddy. Go for it.
All right, I want to give a plug real quick to my friend Rye from Codex of Curiosities, Stephen and all the guys from the Biblical Hitman, Doc Brown from Prometheus Lens, Caesar Pagan from the Beyond the Frequency podcast, and the guys from Nephilim Death Squad. They always show me love. So thank you to those guys as well, and thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it.
All right, man. Great episode. Let's break it down. All right. What'd you guys think of Brad Lail, huh?
You said it was dense.
Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. When he started, I was like, this is some dense stuff. But once you got through the dense stuff, which laid down what he was going to talk about, it's fire, bro. It's fire. Johnny, as a Christian, what did you think of the matter-antimatter discussion?
Well, that's been my belief. I guess you call it a belief. My kind of compromise on science from the beginning is that I think all of that, whatever you want to say, Big Bang or whatever, it's all because of, whatever God's plan was. You know what I mean? Like, because, there's this funny joke about, science. Well, they say, well, we'll explain everything if you just give us this one miracle at the very beginning.
Yeah, okay. If you will accept that we can't explain this thing through science, it's only spiritual. But if you'll let us just explain away, it just happened. Trust us. Everything else makes sense.
Well, it's not even, they don't even say it's spiritual. They say there's one scientific miracle that we just can never explain and we'll never be able to. If you'll give us that, then we'll explain the rest of it. And I don't think, it's a logical fallacy, right? You can't have truth flow from untruth. And, so I've never
right there is why it's like, when I realize that there's Nazi scientists, there's CIA scientists that just do unspeakable shit. Don't ask me why I don't trust science.
Yeah, so dumb.
Johnny, you're totally right about, if you cannot explain what caused the Big Bang, and they can't, they can tell you what happened, but they can't explain why it happened, then everything is bullshit.
Yeah. No. Did you see Patton Oswalt on Mar, that clip that was going around? I think I tweeted it.
Again, I've said it 1,000 times. Wonderful comedian. And everyone who knows him says he's the nicest guy. So, but it's like that dude is just so deep into his
well, he seemed shocked, dude, when Mar said that, for instance, that AOC wasn't a great, candidate for national office. He was like, what? It's so funny. And then he was, Patton Oswalt was like, well, the left certainly stayed scientific during COVID. And
what? The people who say there's 1,000 genders.
That's exactly what Mar brought up. Yeah, he was like, what are you talking about?
The people who said just trust the COVID shot.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make any sense. Even if we're going to say vaccines are good, it takes 10 years to bring a vaccine to market. If you believe that bullshit, how can we get one in 3 months?
Yeah.
By your own rules, it makes no sense.
No, dude, and at the beginning, do you remember right when everybody, was like,
and I will go, and you, sorry to cut you off, Johnny, I won't do it again, but when you're like matching, getting everybody out of prison who was arrested for rioting and vandalism, everything you say is suspect.
Well, and do you remember at the beginning, back when they were saying that nobody should wear masks also, but they were, yeah, we're going to work on a vaccine, but it'll be years, because we have to do so much testing to make sure they're safe. It'll be many years before we'll have a vaccine for this thing. And then they come out with one the next year. Like, okay, dude, sure.
Oh, but did you also forget? Remember when they first came out with the vaccine and it was only for the old people, where you literally could, if you were healthy, you couldn't get it, and then they were the first ones to be able to accept it.
Well, that was more about they in their minds, kind of like triage, like hey, these are the people who need it most, so they get it first because we don't have many, and then we'll get to the rest of everybody. It wasn't like a safety thing, like it's more safe for these people.
No, it was
More dangerous for you. It was more like, hey, we only have a few. We got to get to the most at-risk people. But they were saying that. I mean, this is all we've talked about this a million times. But they were saying at that time that the Rachel Maddow line of you get it and you're good, baby.
You're
COVID over, pandemic over.
Done. You don't have to worry about anything. Someone could piss in your mouth and you're good.
Yeah.
It just makes no sense at all. Guys, if you go to samtripoli.com, we want to start first by saying, once again, thank you to everybody who came to the Vegas show. We had a blast, swarming the house, had a good time. We loved it. So if you go to I'm going to be in Minneapolis next. Then December, we'll be closing out the new year with my good friend, Robbie the Fire Bernstein, Howie Dewey from Cash Daddies, and the wise one, Shane Cashman, live in charge right there. And then the big show will be World War Debate. That is January 10th, the premier gold standard of debates where only the best go to bang. Okay, so check that out.
Hey, it's a long show. It says it starts at 2:11. It's a long it's a nice little show, right? It's
There's gonna be 3 debates. We're working
nice.
out the time, but it's gonna be 3 big debates, 3 people going at it. Grab your tickets now. Will be a part of history. If you go to samtribute.com, you're getting all my free content all loaded up there, plus all of my premium content. And I'm trying to put out 3 a week. I put out a lot. Just trust me, you get nothing but bangers. We're breaking down the best, the Kurt and Sam experiment.
Art only and mystery sandwiches, guys.
Yeah, only they want like $5,000 for only farts. I'm not going to pay $5,000 for only farts. Whatever this is with the powerful Austin Picard and Brad Binkley, one of the Brad Binkley. I mean, Austin Picard basically breaks down that there were snipers in that hotel that night. They were already stationed there on the Vegas shooting. So, I mean, those 2 guys are two of the best at research that you'll ever do, and I'm blessed to do a show with them. Johnny, talk about Cash Daddies.
Yeah, if you want to, we're getting into the time of year where everybody's going to be spending a lot of money on gifts and stuff. If you want to start saving for your future instead of pissing all your money away on credit cards and stuff, this is a good place to learn about how to do that. Even if you're not starting with much, it's you got to start somewhere.
A little bit here, a little bit there.
Yeah, and the power of compounding interest, is
power of compounding. That should be a new show, Johnny. Make that ring. Make that.
They have apps now, Sam, where you can just sing your dumb songs into the phone, and then AI will make that into like.
Send me that app now.
Okay, I will.
Send it to me now. The power of compounding.
You can do that, really. I did one.
Will it make my voice better?
Yeah. Well, it'll have like Barry Manilow singing.
Dana wants me to take all my songs. Young Christian warriors, we come to fight. We fight for love. That's what.
Hey, you can make an album, Sam, a conspiracy album. I think it would rock.
I'm trying to get Johnny.
XG, you are such a what are you talking about?
No,
shut up, Johnny. Shut up.
Money.
Shut up.
Yeah, why you
just
hater?
Shut up.
Think I was gonna ask to get featured in that fucking album?
Yeah, you fucking piece of shit. You're number 3 now, and XG is number 2. XG, why don't you promote anything you want to promote?
I got my first strike on my channel, so go check it out. XG marks the spot. Just go check it out.
Okay.
I like that. That's a selling point. I think it is. That's a good idea.
Actually, the most educational hour on the internet is getting just hit, and support XG.
They're coming for our boy.
They're coming for our illegal boy. That's what we can't let that happen. Also, give it up for Chaos Twins, guys. Great way to support the support. Get in it now. We're doing it. I want to work on an AI cartoon. Please support my family-friendly show. My only family-friendly project. Check it out. It's coming together. We're gonna get it going. I'm gonna do a big podcast push for it as well.
You should do an audiobook on the road. I think where
You want me reading?
you read into it.
I
Or-
would love if I can get my daughter to read it. Go down.
You gotta get AI to do it, bro. You could put your voice in. That would be people would be like, "Wow, Sam's reading."
We also love our good friends at Copy My Crypto. Check them out. Hydrogen Brown Gas, Harley Ray. As always, Brain Supreme crushing it. Brain Supreme is crushing it. XG, are you on or off this week?
It was a good week, so I'm on.
But yeah, you crush. EMF rocks. He's been helping me book a couple guys on the show. Who else? What else? Yeah. Justin's been kind enough to get us a couple great guests coming up. Very excited. Prometheus. If you want a decentralized website, go check out our affiliates. They're only people that are good people that are helping you with stuff you need. Pat Militich, Rife Technology, AquaCure, Hydrogen Brown Gas. When you want to look young, get that hydrogen going. Johnny, okay, fine. I'll let you promote. What do you want to promote?
I will promote the show that you're also on, Broken Simulation. We just did a big episode about you talked about Skankfest and the crazy time you had there. It was pretty entertaining. So,
all right, so
I'm
nothing
finally
but
getting some love from people after all these years of dishing out prophecy. He's finally getting his respect. So
I'm glad people like me. I'm glad people like.
For this, I didn't watch this episode. Why are you almost shirtless, Sam?
Because I want take a look at the views that got
exactly
versus
why.
everything else. If I get my tits out, we get views. It's a little
Dude, you're right. That is a little bit more. That's a good amount.
look
Put
at the
your
one to
tits
the right
out.
of it. The
Put
one to
your
the right of
tits
it
out.
has more than that. What?
Yeah, we were
month
crushing
older.
it, and now
A month older, Johnny. Give it some time.
we're trying, dude. We're trying. Broken Sim is one of the best shows out there. It's the one show where I do mostly comedy, but Johnny forces me to do politics.
No, I didn't force you to. We had a vote, and 80% of the people said that they wanted to have some like contemporary stuff and not just hear about airplanes.
I gotta make a new doom scrolling logo. People should.
What's wrong with it?
Well, I gotta put it on there. I need a doom scrolling logo.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. We got a new Broken Sim logo that needs to go up too.
You got a new Broken Sim logo?
Well, we've had it for a long time. It's not really new anymore. But
Yeah, go to youtube.com/Sam Tripoli, youtube.com/Sam Tripoli comedy, and youtube.com official tinfoil hat.
it's been
Here we
doing
go.
well.
It's doing well. Yeah, I mean,
How many subs now? 45? Look at that thing go.
Yeah, we used to have hundreds, but you know what, dude? They're battling us, but that's
No,
okay.
I mean like the total subscriptions is up to 45,000 subscribers.
the Kerbal
you-
got 17K. That's decent for a newer.
Yeah, I mean, everyone loves Chat BET. I had people text me about how much they love Chat BET.
It's great. The video is fantastic. Listening to you type though, like these long silences of Sam like trying to spell shit is not
Johnny, I'm doing the best I can.
Gotta get
God, why are you so mean?
I just don't understand why wasn't he typing? He's like, Sam, type this, type, and then you're like, oh, how do you spell that?
All right. Anything else, guys?
Oh, we had Alex Stein. You called Alex Stein too, and he confirmed them confirmed or denied. You have to listen to find out a major rumor about his
Major rumor,
his
dude.
interactions. Let's say with Marjorie Taylor Greene. We talked about that on Broken Sim. That was funny.
We're pro Alex Stein on this show.
Yeah, we got it. People would mention that. They were like, dude, you got to have him back on tinfoil.
We gotta get him back on, dude, with his pants on though. This time,
I love it. I love Tom Green growing up, and he's very much like a political Tom Green.
He's just fearless, dude. I mean, Alex Stein is fearless.
I'm after the Kirk thing, I'm like, oh, buddy.
He doesn't care, and I
No,
love
he
how
doesn't.
I love how they shoot Charles Kirk, and then everyone starts doing what he does. Like, I mean, it's
Yeah,
literally
yeah,
the
yeah. But
Streisand
indoors
effect.
now. Most of it's indoors now. Have you noticed? Not a lot of outdoor stuff. Like all these conferences and all that turning point shit has been indoors lately.